Over the past couple of weeks, I've been having conversations with people about motivation and our goals, like setting goals, achieving the goals, and especially people who are asking me often, like, "Oh, how do I keep going with this podcast in particular, and some other things that I want to do?" And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to episode 212 of your favorite daily podcast, A Couple of Things, a podcast about things. And so, I'm going to talk about being sufficiently motivated. And this is the realization that I came to sometime in the middle of the year or sometime this year based on conversations that I was having with my friends about my podcast and our goals and just other things that we're doing. And I realized that the only thing that keeps you going when you're doing a difficult thing is that you are sufficiently motivated. And sometimes people say that, oh, external motivation doesn't really help you. You have to be intrinsically motivated. While that can be true, I do think that it's not always true. I think that sometimes you have to be externally motivated, or external rewards can actually drive you to goal achievement or goal fulfillment. And it's only when you're sufficiently motivated that you can be serious about something, or it's when you're serious about something that you can be sufficiently motivated. Those two things are kind of tied into each other. And I talked about being serious about things like in a previous episode, which I'll link to in the show notes. But the point is that the reason why you are not doing the things that you say you would do, or you're not achieving the goals that you want to, keeping in mind things that some things are outside of your control or whatever. So just basically you're not doing the things that you say you will do. E.g., for me, for example, will be, oh, I want to do this podcast daily, publish an episode every day till the end of the year. I want to learn Dutch to P2, all of those things. The reason, if I wasn't doing those things, the reason why I wouldn't be doing them is because A, I'm not actually quite serious about them, and B, I'm not sufficiently motivated to do those things. And I've talked about the serious things, so I'm not going to dwell on it here. I want to dwell on the sufficient motivation part for this episode. So, like I was saying, motivation can be intrinsic or extrinsic, or the thing that drives you can be intrinsic or extrinsic. And it can be from your sense of self. So that is more intrinsic. Like, I'm the kind of person who does this. I'm the kind of person who achieves my goals, who does the things that I want to do. And that can be the motivator. That can be you have to be sufficiently motivated in that direction. Like for me, with learning Dutch, I kind of touched on this in the episode where I talked about why I'm learning Dutch really seriously now. Beyond the ease of living here and being able to communicate with people and do things in the language of the language of the country, is also for my professional and career growth. And that part is sufficiently motivating me to spend money and spend time on doing Dutch classes. Like, living here is not sufficient enough for me to spend all this time and energy and effort beyond the minimum that is required to get by here, the minimum that is required to do the basics, right? So I'm sufficiently motivated by my desire to grow my career, and I think that this is a thing that will help me in that, given the country that I live in and the kinds of organizations that I want to work with. I have identified certain kinds of organizations that I want to work with, and I have seen the requirements, and it often includes being able to speak Dutch professionally. So that is money and career growth, great motivators in this instance. Another example is this podcast. So part of the reason why I'm still going on with the daily posting thing is there are two reasons. The first reason is internal. It's like, I want to do this because I have said I will do it. And I think of myself as someone who does the things that I really want to do. Like, when I want to do something, when I'm serious about something, I do it. And so that I am keeping myself consistent with that story that I've told myself, so that I have internal consistency, basically. That is a motivator for me. That's the first part. Then the second part is extrinsic as well. It's so that I can have something to brag about. Which seems funny, but it's just like, sometimes you have to do some things that are not necessarily like career or whatever related. It's just something fun that you want to do, but it's also challenging, to give yourself the idea that you can actually do things no matter how difficult it may seem. It doesn't have to be like a big thing or a groundbreaking thing. It's just something that you have decided to do for fun or to explore the limits of your capacity and your ability. And that is what this is for me. And that for me is sufficient motivation to keep publishing episodes every day and recording episodes almost every day until the point. That's what keeps me going even when I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. It's like when I picture myself at the end of the year or in the beginning of 2025 saying that, oh, last year I published a podcast for 365 days every day, that keeps me going. That in this case is my sufficient motivation. So if you're struggling with achieving any specific goals or doing any things that you said you would do or that you would like to do, you need to ask yourself first that, are you serious about this? Is this something that is actually important to you? Does it matter? Do you care? Do you think you can do it? All of those things, like, are you actually serious? And then you have to secondly ask yourself, are you sufficiently motivated? And usually the answer to the first question helps you identify the motivator that you have that can keep you on that path even when you are tired. And if you listen to people who, like, the Olympics is currently happening, and if you listen to all these people that participate in these kinds of things in the Olympics, or people who are trying to start a business or whatever, when you hear them speak, you can actually identify the thing that is their sufficient motivator, or the thing that actually is enough. Because you can be motivated to do something but not enough. Like, you can have motivation, you can have the drive to do something, but sometimes it's not enough. So to really be able to accomplish or do something, you have to have sufficient, like, there's a bar, there's a line. And sometimes we think that we are really driven and motivated about certain things, but we're not reaching that line. Our motivation has not reached that line. And maybe there are things that you can do to, like, get you over that line to become sufficiently motivated. Perhaps there are some things you could do, but until we get to that point of being, so I've said sufficiently so many times, I don't want to say it again, but I can't think of any other way to phrase it than, until we get to that point of being sufficiently motivated, where it's like, okay, this, I will do this thing, I must do this thing, and this is why. Not some made up frou, this makes me sound smart word salad why, but the actual why. No matter how weird or quote unquote bad it may seem to other people, when you hit that actual reason why you are doing this thing, that is the point where sufficient motivation hits. And it can be, you want to stunt on your haters. People often say that is not a good enough reason, or a motivating enough reason, but I mean, we've seen things happen where people actually go on to achieve great things because everybody told them they never would, and then they were like, no, I'm going to show you that I can, and I will. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Bye. There's still over 100 episodes to go. I still need questions. I still need suggestions of who to talk to. I still need people who want to come on to talk about something to fill the form. So please do that. Thank you very much. And yeah, do like, share, subscribe if you found it interesting, insightful, and all the nice things. Bye.